Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. I'd like to start off by saying thank you to all the new people here. The last video got quite a few more views than usual, so if you're new here, thank you very much and I hope you stick around. Today we'll be doing something a little different. We'll be doing a book review. We'll be reviewing Diderot and the Art of Thinking Freely by Andrew S. Curran. I have a link to the book in the description if you want to check it out yourself or if you think that you'd enjoy it. So basically, to sum it up, I think this book is a fantastic read, particularly to those who are unfamiliar with Diderot. If you want an introduction to Diderot, this is a fantastic read for you. For those that don't know, who is Diderot, that's probably worth clarifying in this review of a book that is completely about his life and work. So Denis Diderot was a French Enlightenment philosopher during the 18th century. He was a really important figure in the Enlightenment movement. His most famous work is the Encyclopedia Project. He didn't work on it alone, a lot of people worked on it, but he was the main editor and he spearheaded the project. The encyclopedia was this unprecedented collection of knowledge about the world, and today it sort of serves as a collection of Enlightenment knowledge, and really lets us look back on the period. It's often called the Enlightenment Bible, so it's a really important work of the movement, and Diderot spearheaded that. So that's why he's so important, and I think it is worth looking back on his life and his works, which is what Curran does in this book. I think this is a fantastic biography and a great look at Diderot's life. It's a really well-written look at Diderot. Curran's writing keeps it very entertaining, it flows very well, but Curran is not afraid to give us the details when necessary, and when he has them, you have to remember that for a lot of the events covered in this book, the sources can be a little spotty, but when Curran has the sources to reliably back up what he's writing, he will give us very detailed descriptions and good summaries of events and writings of the time period. So I think Curran does a very good job of going into detail while still making it entertaining for a wide audience. This book is very well researched and I think it really holds up to academic standards, but it is sort of a mass market book. I think it appeals to a lot of people. You don't need to be an expert on this time period or the Enlightenment or Diderot to read this book and have a good time with it. Like I said, in fact, I think it's a good introduction to a lot of those things. Curran also gives us a great look at Diderot's written work, both the work that was published during his lifetime and the work that took decades to be released to all of us, the stuff that Diderot kept hidden or went unpublished. Curran does a really good job at laying out Diderot's most important writing, sort of summarizing it and explaining what he was going for, the context these works were written in, and what exactly they mean for the time period and for us. Curran gives us a good look at Diderot the man. Now, Curran presents a very favorable depiction of Diderot, but to be fair, I think it's kind of difficult to avoid becoming attached to your subject when you're writing a biography like this. And also, I do think Diderot is a pretty good figure. I don't think it's difficult to present him in a favorable light. Curran presents him as this sort of radical, forward-thinking, progressive thinker of the Enlightenment movement, which, like I said, is a very flattering depiction, but I think it's also a pretty accurate depiction of Diderot. Curran gives a good look at Diderot the person. Diderot was always brilliant, but rather mischievous, even from his childhood. And Curran gives us a really good anecdote, which I want to share with you guys. There's lots of good anecdotes throughout this book, but this one is sort of entertaining in particular, and it's a story from Diderot's childhood that I think tells us a lot about him throughout his entire life. This is on page 29 to 30 for those that have the book. So, quote, "In addition to engaging in such erudite mischief, the young Diderot also had a tendency to get into scraps. On one occasion, after being sent home from school for fighting, he realized that he was missing out on the annual prize day, a day when his teachers were identifying their strongest pupils through a series of exams and competitions. Refusing to be shut out of the contest, he attempted to sneak back into the school by rushing in with the other students, but was singled out by the college's guard. While the sentinel was unable to prevent Diderot from slipping by, he nonetheless managed to stab the boy with his halberd. Bleeding from a wound that his family only discovered about a week later, Diderot nonetheless prevailed over all of his classmates, winning prizes in essay writing, poetry, and Latin translation. I really like that anecdote because I think it shows Diderot's brilliant and mischievous way of doing things. It also shows a quality that Diderot would keep with him for the rest of his life, that spirit of perseverance. Diderot really had to keep his nose to the grindstone, keep working, going at it hard, you know. He was a man who couldn't be stopped, and that was really required for the work that he did, and he kept that spirit throughout his whole life. Curran does a great job sharing stories like that throughout the book to give us, you know, I think a really good look and a good understanding of a man who lived 300 years ago. Curran does a really good job at fleshing out Diderot and helping us understand him, even from our modern perspective. Like I said, there's a ton of these really entertaining, interesting anecdotes throughout the book, which show us some of Diderot's mischievous exploits and give us a really good look into Diderot as a person. For those wondering, Curran also details Diderot's friendship and the breakdown of the friendship with Rousseau, which is, I think, a very interesting relationship from this era. Obviously, a relationship between two literary greats of the Enlightenment. Curran gives us a fair look at that relationship and the breakdown. And I think this book is worth reading for the entertainment factor alone, not to mention that myself and many other people are very interested in this time period and philosophers like Diderot. You know, I also think there's a lot to learn. The story of Diderot, his ideas, and his life are clearly worth looking at today. I mean, Curran obviously thinks so. He wrote this book, and I agree with him. And, you know, Diderot would also agree. That sounds a little strange, but in a lot of his works, Diderot actually wrote with future generations in mind. He would explicitly address future generations. Diderot was a very radical and forward-thinking individual, and so a lot of his work had to remain unpublished. But Diderot knew that a lot of his ideas would be taken up in the future, and so he addressed a lot of his work to the future. His biggest project, the Encyclopedia, of course he wanted it to be a collection of knowledge for those at the time, you know, this project to share knowledge with everybody, but he also knew that it would be a collection of knowledge that really showcased the time period, showcased the Enlightenment movement. Diderot was aware of that. And I really do think that a lot of Diderot's ideas are still relevant today. I mean, his skepticism, his insistence on challenging authority, and his belief that knowledge should be shared for the benefit of everybody. I really think that these are ideas that are still relevant today, and ideas that we can still learn from today. I would say the work that Diderot started in the 18th century, it still hasn't been finished. And I think Curran is sort of a part of that movement, sharing Diderot's story, sharing his ideas. You know, like I said, clearly Curran likes Diderot, he's on his side. I'm sure he would probably agree with that mission, and I think part of what he's doing is sharing that with us today. So, to cap it off, you know, if you're interested in learning about Denis Diderot, the Enlightenment, or even this period, the 18th century in general, or anything I talked about in this video sounds interesting to you, I would absolutely recommend Diderot and the Art of Thinking Freely by Andrew S. Curran. Fantastic book, written well, entertaining, and I think gets a valuable point across. Once again, I have the book linked down below, so if you guys want to go and check it out for yourselves, you can click the link in the description. If you guys enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it if you would leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and check out the Patreon, which is also linked in the description. I hope you guys are having a good day today. Please share with me your thoughts about this book if you've read it, or about Diderot, this time period, or even any other interesting books that you guys are reading at the moment. I will see you all again next time. Goodbye.